A very good afternoon, everybody, and welcome as we wait for 5:30 when we shall begin our brief exploration of one aspect of Judas Iscariot. Hope your Maundy Thursday has gone well, whatever you have been doing. And of course, the start of an immense 3 days for us to remember and to ponder and then to celebrate on Sunday. It is 5:30. Good afternoon, everybody, to our 5:30 thought of a Bible phrase on Thursdays that perhaps might take our breath away. And this evening, we're going to be looking at Judas Iscariot. So many things could be asked about Judas and have been asked about Judas. I guess, why did he do it? Why did he betray Jesus? Secondly, were the other disciples unfair about him when they wrote about him in years to come afterwards? Were they looking retrospectively, or even at the time, did they suspect? Didn't seem they did suspect, because when Jesus said, "One of you will betray me," they didn't all look accusingly at Judas. And the other thing, the main thing is, why did he do it? What were the motives there? Was he expecting another sort of Messiah? And then there's the sad question about why did he despair so much? Peter, another of Jesus's friends, let Jesus down hugely that night, and he felt very bad. He was weeping, but he stayed in the right place to be restored. But Judas felt such a despair that he could not. But there's one particular phrase that we will look at this evening. This is from Matthew chapter 26. Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?" So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. 30 pieces of silver. The context is clear. The chief priests and the religious leaders want to find a moment during that week when they can arrest Jesus without a big crowd around, because the big crowd loved Jesus and would protect him, and there could be a riot and so on. How could they find him in a moment when he was a little bit more alone? And then Judas went, and they said 30, or someone said, was it them or was it Judas? 30 silver pieces of silver. In this little bowl here, we've got 30 pieces of silver. And I often wonder if they were dropped one by one into a bowl or a bag, or whether the bowl or bag was just put on the table, and whether Judas felt, well, maybe 40 would be better, or 20 would have been enough. 30 pieces of silver. It's not a huge amount of money. It's just described as pieces of silver, so we don't know the exact currency. But some commentators say, well, in today's money, we're maybe talking about £200. Some say a little bit less, some say a little bit more. It is not a huge amount. What would we sell our friends for? 30 pieces of silver, each piece dropping in, each piece being counted carefully. Perhaps two things here. Judas had been an enthusiastic, a close follower of Jesus for 3 years. He had heard all those great words. He had shared so many great experiences. Was this a sudden thing, or had he for some time been trapped by a love of money? The disciples imply that maybe he was, but we don't know his full story. And so this Maundy Thursday, we perhaps need to ask ourselves, is there a particular temptation that we face that would draw us away from our love, our faith in Christ? It may not be 30 pieces of silver. It may be something else, ambition, popularity, status, big house, whatever it may be. But there may be something which nibbles away at our hearts, our souls, and may lead us astray. It's fairly unlikely that this was a sudden thing from Judas. It's unlikely that he suddenly switched from Palm Sunday enthusiastic follower to I'm going to betray my friend. But somehow the price was enough. He would have heard Jesus say, what does it gain a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? But at that point, Judas is thinking that Jesus has got it wrong. And often when we fall into temptation, that's what we're saying too, that Jesus has got it wrong. The very first question in the Bible, and in recent Thursdays, we've looked at the first question God asks, then the first question that humanity asks, but the very first question is asked by the devil, and that is, did God really say? And in the same way, maybe Judas asked himself, did Jesus really say? Was Jesus really right when he said that thing about gaining the whole world against losing my soul? Maybe I can have both. It's only 30 pieces of silver. Maybe I can do both. And so he betrayed his friendship. He betrayed his faith. He betrayed all that he had been part of for the last 3 years. And then, of course, as well as betraying his faith, as I say, he betrays his friendship. He and Jesus are friends. When Judas greets Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, he gives him the kiss of friendship. And even at that moment, Jesus is his reaction, you're betraying the friendship by giving that sign of friendship, but you're just about to hand me over to the temple guards. And again, for us, perhaps, is there anything that causes us to betray our friends? What's the price? What do we value most? Judas realizes that he's done something terrible. He's betrayed his faith. He's betrayed his friend. He's betrayed his other friends as well, who are in the garden with Jesus. And he goes back and he takes the money to the chief priests and he says, I realize I have done wrong. And he throws the money down at their feet. They don't pick it up because they feel it's tainted money. In fact, although given the fact that they had given it to him in the first place, that makes it interesting. But they have contempt for him and they don't comfort him or reassure him. And sometimes we perhaps are people or come across people who will manipulate others for our own gain, or if we're manipulated, they will be doing it for their gain. And Judas was manipulated by these people. Someone knew that 30 pieces of silver would be enough. That would be enough for Judas to betray his faith, to betray his friend. And they then left him isolated, alone, to his own devices. And sadly, his despair was such that he also had forgotten Jesus' story of the prodigal son, that we can always be welcome back, whatever we've done. A little bit later at 7:30, we'll be having a service where we will remember the Last Supper and Jesus washing feet and remembering with bread and wine. Perhaps as we lead into the rest of Maundy Thursday, then Good Friday tomorrow, then the quietness of Easter Saturday, Holy Saturday, then Easter Sunday itself. Perhaps let us pause to ponder Judas. And we may not know what was really going on in his heart and mind, but let's consider ourselves and where we might have been in that. Thank you so much for listening this afternoon. Have a blessed evening. Thank you.